Okay. Welcome to another stream, everyone. Hope we're doing good. So, last stream was working on the build system, and we encountered was basically trying to get the code generation to work, and then after the code generation, it will kick off the compiling the code build. The compiling the C code, like the DLL and the executable. And that's all done with some dependency graph and everything. But we bumped into a bit of a problem where it now means that whenever a pass needs to find dependencies, um, those dependencies, that find dependencies pass, can actually have dependencies of its own that it needs to wait for now. So it needs to go, it used to just be a separate thing that ran on the side that it would just find dependencies for everything as and when it needed. But now we actually need to make them like as part of the node graph, basically the DAG. So that's what we'll start working on last stream, but we've got to finish up this stream. So now we need to make it such that when a pass, uh, oh, when a pass, a find dependency pass finishes, it needs to parse the depth file that it generates. So it's that sort of .d file. So I don't have one as an example because I've deleted the directory, but it's the classic Clang or GCC .d file basically. But yeah, any questions, feel free to ask away. But yeah, we hang around in the Discord channel off stream, and also there's a way to get access to the codes to run on your own local machine if you want to support the channel. Consider supporting via Ko-Fi. But yeah, start with a quick prayer first. Father in heaven, we thank you, Lord, for this day. We bless your holy name. Thank you, Lord, for being our great provider and giving us everything that we have. And we thank you for the peace in our land that we have, or the relative peace that we have in our land. Compared to other places where I live, where a lot of us live, is great. There's always more blessed than other people around the world, and we just thank you for those blessings, Lord. I just pray that you help every one of my viewers, Lord, get to know you more, and before your time comes, or their time comes, I pray that they receive you as a Lord and Savior. I just pray ultimately, Lord, that if any one of my viewers is struggling with anything, please attend to their need, and also reveal that it was you who attended to their need. I pray, Lord, that if there's any Christian among them as well, that ultimately they get closer to you, draw closer to you, Lord, and receive a fresh outpouring of the Holy Spirit, and begin doing great works, or continue doing great works for the kingdom of God to the next level. Thank you, Lord. We bless your holy name. Help me with the stream today. Help me achieve what we set out to achieve, and help me draw closer to the next phase of this project. Thank you, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Lovely. So yeah, that's the other thing as well, is off stream I've been working on a presentation. I've only just really started it, but the first, I don't know, 6 slides are done. I'm hoping to get more time this Friday, maybe a little bit the weekend as well, to compile this presentation on the game prototype that we want to move on to very soon. We're trying to finish the build system. When the build system is done, it will be making sure the hot code reload works really well. And then from then on, we can basically start. I just need to present this presentation, which will go over basically the whole idea for the game at this point in time, basically, from what I can gather right now. But yeah, so let's get going. So essentially, we have a command node now needs to hold whether or not it has a dependency file. And when the command is maybe about to run or something, it needs to check that maybe. What's the way of saying it? So if you do a find dependencies pass, that find dependencies pass, when that's done, we could store a timestamp, right? So we could store a timestamp in the find dependencies or in the node to say have you got the latest of it? And if you yeah, but then you'll be adding those dependencies multiple times. Maybe that's not right. Yeah, so when the find dependencies pass is finished, you need to basically read that dependency file that it's generated and then add it. So this would be a find dependencies origin. Maybe that's not the right way of saying it. So this will only be set on a find dependency pass. So find dependencies of so when the find dependencies pass is done, it can link to the yeah, maybe that should be the name. Find dependencies of command node. So when that is done, so you have the executor, I think is the way of saying it. I need to. Right, it's much more comfortable. Right, so we have the executor, so I guess you say, let's just search for it, I think. Yeah, so when this wakes up and it's like, hey, the command is done. So that's, here it waits and here it wakes. So it's done without an error. It goes and yeah, so before it queues, it should go if command node, if one of these nodes exists, then we need to somehow trigger the fact that it needs to yeah, how do we know the dependency? The dep file that it output. Well, you have an output list, and it might just be the first one. You're only going to output one file in a find dependencies pass, and that should be it. So I think it should just be able to go command node output list head node path, right? It's quite a lot of dereferences, but there you go. then this path is the one you want to load. So there is a DAG, there's a way to load DAG parse depth file, and I think that adds more inputs, and that should also increase the number of waiting on dependencies count. Yep. So we should just be able to do this then, where we say so DAG command node. So we'll call this the a little bit much, but there you go. Then we I think that's right. Don't know why I saw it as a local, to be honest. I'll do. We can let the compiler do the rest. Right, so that'll parse the dependencies file because it's output now, and add more inputs to the pass that it was finding it for. Now, we also would need so when we queue the DAG for execution, so you build a whole graph of like what needs to be built, and it has all the find dependency stuff in there. And we go over all the commands and try and find nodes which have no, what's the way of saying it? All of the input files do not need to be created via a command, right? So they're not a result of they don't have anything they're depending on. They're the sort of first things to run. And we add those to a list of commands to run. Then we inspect the list of commands to run and see whether if they need to be ran or not, because if they've not changed, basically. So we inspect all the inputs and see if they need to be built. Yeah, so the find dependencies passes. These ones, yeah, they might have some problem. There's another problem I want to look at, but let's see if we can put this in here first. So if we say that it doesn't need to build, right, and it is a node which is a dependency pass. Wait, will such thing exist? Yeah, we might have to remove this, we'll see. But yes, so this will just be a C. Yeah, so the find dependency pass doesn't need to run because the file is already there or something like that. Then we parse it, the depth file, and we add the inputs to the nodes in to the node that it's finding the dependencies for. Right, there we go. Okay, so the other problem was if we're about to dispatch a bunch of commands, and so you have a find dependencies pass. So let's find a concrete example. So let's go to the, what is the DAG called again? It's the CEXE is probably a good one to look at. There we go. So, well, yeah. So this is just a client command. So I think what I need to do is refactor this such that so it's missing the output file. Yeah, but what's the input file? So the input file is Oh yeah, yeah, this can be fine. No, I think this has some problems. So effectively, you can have, right, let's write it down. So you can have a file called game.c, right? You you don't know, or you've never built it before, so you don't know what it depends on. So you do a find dependencies pass on it, and that will generate you a game.d file, right? It's just a file with all the, like literally a list of all the header files that it references, right, recursively, yeah. And we read that in, and then we can know in the future what to check to see if we need to recompile this file. Now, um, so wait a minute, I forgot my drink. Need my drink, BRB. Ah, much better. Right, I got my drink now. Right, so where was we? So we're trying to figure out how to refactor this such that we include in the find dependencies pass of of a a file in the DAG tree and make sure it makes sense with the build system, right? So um, because now find dependencies passes can have dependencies of their own, so they need to be part of a tree of the tree. So if we take, for example, you're trying to build game.c. You've never built it before, so you need to know how if it needs to be built. What's the way of saying it? Yeah, you never built it before, so you need to know like when it should be built, because this game.c file could have dependencies on maybe some code generation, right? So we do a we do a game.c, we do a find dependencies pass on it. Now, well, sorry, that example didn't actually make any sense. We actually have that problem where you need to, if you try and do a find dependencies pass, Clang will actually, well, not Clang, because Clang has a way to sort of ignore missing headers when you do the find dependencies pass stuff. But the GLSLC compiler does not, so we've had to change it such that any C compilation or any shader compilation has to happen after the code generation stuff has run. So I've had to put that explicitly in this build system to get around that problem. But what's the thing I'm trying to say? Yeah. So we do these find dependency passes. Why do we do them before? Because we could just generate the .d file. Hmm. Yeah, so maybe do we actually need the find dependency passes then? Because if they don't exist, they're going to cause problems. Um, like the header files or whatever. And so we can't wait for them to necessarily be generated. What was the other reason? So you could just build all of your C files anyway. Um, but the dependency file is useful because it allows us to bookmark and keep track of whether or not we need to actually build this node in the again in the future. So we'll scan the .d file. We will know all of its dependencies. So if you change a header file, we can then know to rebuild game.c. That's the reason why we have these .d files, right? So maybe these find dependency passes for code compilation don't really make much sense because we're using GLSLC and it has missed. It doesn't have a flag to handle missing headers that have not been code generated. So maybe we can get rid of the find dependency pass and that'll simplify everything. So we'll just have like maybe. So if the depth file exists, parse it, and then we can know whether or not to. Yeah, I think that's basically what you want to do is you just simply do this. Be quite insane. Right, let's try this and then we'll comment out the old code and we'll just yeah, we need it, we'll just put it back in, right? If we could do that, would be awesome. Okay. So, what will be next? So, VK shader needs a similar treatment. If the depth file exists, then parse it. Now, what we could do would be much easier is you simply move that function, that code inside the function, so it doesn't need to be on every call site. And that would mean that could help. Right, very nice. This other one is the encoder code gen. So the encoder code gen. Does this one need to define dependencies pass? I think it does. So if the depth file doesn't exist, yeah, we need to know what output. Um, hang on a minute. Yeah, this seems completely wrong. So this is generating a depth file, but we're doing it because we want to know what output files to... Right, so it's kind of the other way around. It's not dependency file, it's like a depender file, right? It's like, it's outputs. Like, what outputs are you going to generate, basically? This is what we're asking for. Yeah, so maybe we need a way for the build system to make, for a command to tell us what outputs it will want ahead of time. So for instance, on this encoder, on these encoder files, if it targets the file system, it has versioning basically, and that means, so if it's for encoding where you basically save that to disk, it needs versioning. So those ones have a C file that gets generated. So yeah, potentially it's not too hard to make this change. Basically, we want another one of these, but just for... It's the other way around, right? So this would be an out. And rather than input, it's an output, which is kind of nice, not too difficult. Yeah, it could be renamed to be a bit better though, but for now this will do because this solves our problem, right? So now, so for these ones, what we're looking for is maybe an out file. Right. So if you don't have an output that already exists, an out file that already exists, which tells us what things it's going to output, we need to generate one of those. But yeah, then... Okay, that should be fine, I think. Okay. I wonder if this is good enough. Right, see what happens now. So I think we deleted the... Well, I don't know, let's just delete these then. And delete the file DBs. Just got the build script in here. And here we go. Oh yeah, that was it. I wanted to do a quick little backup because it's been a while since I've worked on checked something in, and I've done on checking something half broken. So let me just do a thing. There we go. Quick and simple backup. Right, so what's this complaining about? Right, it's in two places. Right, so null pointer, what are you complaining about? Of the file doesn't exist. Right, wrong way around. And I was thinking we could probably get rid of these things now. Is that right? Yeah, I think so. On dependencies. Well, they might be needed for other things. Yes, leave them in. We might need them in the future. Oh no, okay, let's just get rid of it. We can always add it in if we need it. Wasn't too hard to think about. Cool. Oh, okay. So missing argument for input file for... Right, so built the encoder code gen. Right, so miss the input file. Why is that? What was it trying to run? Just to verbose. Right, so it's starting these guys. Dry run. Ah, interesting. Out file. Yes, I wonder if we should call a different suffix on those because... Oh well. Let's just do .d. But yes, so we call them out files now. So that will just be in the encoder CodeGen main. Cool. Right, so I think that was part of the parsing error basically. Right, so ran those, missing argument for input. Why is that? Dry run. Oh, right, if that is null, then it's missing. Right, it's interesting. So it's ran. It started them, now it's got this weird exit code thing. So that is for what reason? Right, that's probably because it passed in a null pointer. Yeah, I don't know if it's actually compiling the so I saved this. It's not recompile this encoder code gen for some reason. Bizarre. Yeah, so encoder code gen. Yes, here's the executable. So it's going to run because the executable is available. But like, what happens if it needs to be built, though? Yes, so it's got an input file on the executable, right? So it should be running. Right, so try and build that encoder CodeGen. But that should have a dependency file, and then realize it needs to be rebuilt. So let's look at that. There should be a graph somewhere. Have a look at this graph. Right, what's something here? Right, so here we go. So when was this updated? Today? Cool, so that's fine. Now it's saying, so the code generation exe is dependent on by these things, right? So these things shouldn't even be running if it wasn't for this code gen thing. But I changed. So the build calls for these things was because the output file is missing. And so it queues up, you know. No, it's kind of a lie that. Right, it's this out file thing that it's trying to generate. We put down some fake output files, but that's a lie. Shouldn't be doing that. So those are the files that it could be generating, but it's not needed. Cool, so if we try that, what happens now? So the cause of trying to build those is missing the output file something.d, right? That makes more sense. But why are they trying to run before? Oh, so it's missing an input file of the executable. The exe file node, right? Oh no, it is there. It's right there. Damn it. Right, so when we do that DAG queue for execution, so this is once we built the DAG, we try and queue it. We go over all of the. Yes, I think what we're looking for is the case when we. Yeah, so I think let's just get into here. And that'd be a good place to be. Where are we going exactly? So we want to run build script. Lovely. So what one's this? Build script. Cool. UDAG for execution. There we go. That's the one I want. So how many nodes did we get in the end? So there's 45 nodes and we're trying to run one. Brilliant. This should be the encoder code gen. The encoder code gen comes into here. I'd like to build the C file, right, which builds the executable. So we look at it. It's going to have the output list. We realize that the output exists. There's no point trying to build it in that way, but it still doesn't need to build. So let's find if there's other reasons which need to make it build. And now we look at it and we realize that right, so it has got some dependencies. This is interesting. Oh, but what is not a dependency is itself. Yeah, maybe that's what's going on. So the main file, rather interesting, isn't it? I think that's what's going on. So when we go and build a, where is it? It's like command clang. So the source path, that might be it. Nah, it's right there. That'll be at the tail of the list, I think, basically. And so could we look at that after? So like if we were to change, say, the encoder code gen main, right? Save it. We want a new timestamp on that file now. So we run the build system again, and I don't know how many of, can I look at the .d file? So I think it's in cache, debug. Here it is right here, yeah? So we'll look at that. Here's all the dependencies. It's quite a lot, right? So it's a lot to get through. Which is a shame, but essentially there's this one here, right? That would have been added. That's the first one. So it should be checked. I wonder if we could do a sort of like queue for execution, and I would like to say, right, if string compare equal to, yeah, one of these guys. So file dependency node path string C. Right, let's drop that in there. Let's hope that is going to be an exact equal there. So I think we do a call breakpoint basically. So we try and run that. We don't hit it, unfortunately. So I want to see why. So if I put the breakpoint here, and then we print out all of these guys. String format. Right, so apparently it's just got one input. Oh wait, sorry, that's in the outputs. Right, no wonder why, whoops. In the complete wrong place. Here I want to put it. Here we go. What's the address sanitizer complain about here? So one header file. Right, it needs to be inside the while loop. Whoops. Yeah. So they're there, and it does hit the breakpoint, I think. Cool. So that's great. So we can get rid of that. And I just run it. Should just hit the breakpoint. So now we can just get in there with the debugger, give it a run, and amazing. So we hit the breakpoint now. What am I trying to check here? So we know the timestamp has changed, right? So Right, when does the latest modified time and that get refreshed? Like, so if I were to quickly just... Yeah, no, that should be fine. Yeah, so latest modified time. When does that get changed? So we push a time in. That's when we read the database file. Then we... Right, this is update. Right, so only when the file has been changed on disk, and not before. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so it seems like when we read the file database, we don't actually get the latest time on disk. So actually, yeah, this is insanely dumb. This should be moved. Hang on a minute. What even is this code? Parse the file database. So what we should be doing after... So I think we should just be doing a find or insert. What is that? So it's just an insert. What is it? Right, and that'll get us the latest time if it doesn't exist already. Okay, that's the function that we want. So when we're reading the file database off disk, when it's parsing all the commands which have ran with the input files of every command which has ran and the timestamps they were compiled with. I think we're just looking to doing a find or insert. If we don't insert the time here, we'll just get the latest time on disk. That's the one we want. So that's the reason why I wasn't rebuilding. So now when we run it, right, perfect. Here we go. There we go. Right, this is cool. So it noticed... Right, so it builds a DAG. It's like, oh, you've changed this file. Cue that command, right? It starts, finishes, and then it's like, hey, that built in like 1 second or whatever. It should be way less, but there we go. We've got stuff to improve there, but it's fine. Yeah, I want to like not have this depend on any part of the code base. Really, it shouldn't depend on anything, but there we go. I gotta change that. But yeah, so then finally then we can say, right, there isn't an output file which exists yet for these ENC files, so we don't know what they want to actually output. So we'll quickly run those and query that, right? So these will get fired off here and tell us like, hey, I need to generate a .h file, but hey, this one needs to generate a .c file as well because it's got serialization for a file. Then after those are done, it's like, right, now we can compile the game and the shaders. That's wrong, right? because this is just the out file. So that is wrong. What we actually need to be doing, it's very close. So yeah, I had to do this silly thing where we had to sort of get all the, oh, it was even get the .d files. Those output files then. Or the, oh, that's right, isn't it? Right, I see the problem now. So effectively, because GLSLC doesn't allow us to run a find dependencies pass and then have missing header files, we basically just go, right, okay, code gen, collect all the files that we need to code gen, do those first, and then after code gen is done, we can just compile the rest of the code base. So this here collects, it goes over all the files that need to be code gened, right? Just grabs a list of them, goes over all of them, and then it tries to just make an array of dependencies. But so if the output file doesn't exist yet, so it should be called the out file. So if it exists, great. If it doesn't exist, put the dependency file there as the one to wait on. But the issue is what is happening is these out files are now finishing, all of them. And it's like, great, I can now compile the game code, but that's not right because the proper path needs to run. So what we should be doing is probably putting in two, so in the cache directory, it should be generated.c.h. So we did recently delete those. There's somewhere around here, let me find it. All these guys, these ones here, yeah? So what we'll do is we'll be like, well, it could be one of these guys, or both that you're waiting on, and this will stop them from actually going past this point. So we can say, we don't know yet. So just make the two potential files the dependencies to stop the code build from running after or when the out file generation completes. So when those run successfully, it'll build another DAG, then with the correct, right? It will then build a DAG with the correct set of code gen file paths. There we go. That should do it. So the file name is we need to path pop extension. There we go. Right, so that should solve our problems. So if we, I guess, just delete the build stuff, let's just delete these guys and start again. So I want to make sure it works fine without from scratch basically. Right, it's got some more problems here. Let's have a look. So it does the right. So yeah, it builds those out files again. Lovely. And then wait. Right, this is very confusing now. Right. So missing encodergen exe. So now it needs to run the out file. Pass. Generates the out files. And now it's trying to queue the commands again. Nope. Yep, then those are all going to fail, aren't they? Well, a lot of them are. Yeah, because they've not been generated yet. Oh, right. Sorry, I didn't push both of them on. Right. There we go. This should be the fix. Right, here we go. So let's do a clear screen. Right, so... This is very strange. Try running that again. Interesting. So now it's not even trying to build the encoder gen for some reason. These input files don't exist. And something is happening. So what's going on? So the build cause is missing output file. Interesting. But how's he getting to the point of running these? So you check for inputs. Yeah, I think we just got to put a breakpoint here now and inspect this because it's something to do with the file not existing. It's causing it to. So once we have a DAG, right? We go over and find all the nodes which don't need an input to be generated. Therefore, everything is ready, right? Then we go over all the ones which need to run, and we see whether or not they have up to date. If they've already been built recently, basically without any of the inputs changing, right? Have the timestamps changed? And so I think what's happening is this need to build is like not passing when the files don't exist and therefore skipping building it entirely, which is probably what is going on. Just would rather hunt it down using the debugger. So here we go, breakpoint. Right, there's 39 there already. That seems wrong. Let me just delete the cache and start again just in case. Right, that's very strange. So what did we change to cause with no creation command. Oh, there's those. We've taken off the dependency file. Right, so the other thing is if the input files don't exist. I think there's the other thing. So you go over all of these guys. Right, but if the file does not exist, also it should not run. That's the other thing we should be looking at. So it's here. Yes, only if the file exists. Now, kind of not necessarily a valid true as well, maybe, but because you're missing something to generate it for, I guess. Sorry, you're missing a node which generates that file. If the file doesn't exist yet. Yeah. Right, that's interesting. So that built, yeah, so built the code generation, right? It does build the output files, and then it looks and finds out, hey, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's been added, and then it does nothing, which kind of sucks. So we should be seeing build DAG, which would then cause, so right here it just does a bunch of inserts, then it doesn't do anything. So this is cool, so we can use this to check what's going on. So we've put a breakpoint here. There's no commands to run. Right, this is interesting. It's probably a lot of nodes. It's 45. Right, code gen this guy. Yeah, this is just an out file build. Oh, why is it trying to make an out? No. Yeah, this one's fine. Yeah, so this is one we want to be inspecting. So what's going on here? So we've got a couple of inputs. The code generator itself. And the actual encoder file. So this should... Yeah, so this shouldn't be doing anything here, that's right. Huh. Yeah, this wasn't the one to look at. The one to look at would have been the encoder code gen. Not this one, the C file, this one. So why doesn't this one build now? So that's fine. Then the path here is, how many dependencies we got? Oh, we've got so many dependencies, wow. Um, you know what it is? Is there a .enc file which we're accidentally including the code generator? I don't think so, actually. No, we're not. Okay, that's good to know. So basically what happens when we get here is, wow, there's 100 odd dependencies, but is it really? Is there really 100 of these? I don't know. Is there 100? So yeah, it was triggering it before, so it makes it seem like this file exists thing. Oh, right. So we can't do this file exists because not all of the files are cached. So you'd have to use like an operating system call, which I kind of want to avoid. So I could either bring those into the cache, which I don't really like the idea of. We could do. Um, oh. So why have we got this file index exists? Yeah. So we have it to make sure that we don't try and run a command if the file doesn't exist. Input file doesn't exist. Same with here, really. Hmm. Okay, so they're all coming from the dep file. What's the way of saying it? Yeah, from the dep file. So maybe when we do dep files, we should add them to the directory watcher. So directory watcher, watch directory, this thingy. So we should probably, when we do a dep file parse or whatever, every one of the dependency strings, we should probably do this as well. A bit crazy, but there we go. So there's gonna be even more stuff added. Right, I see no change here. We should see like, hey, you've tried to watch this directory. I don't see like the C directory anywhere here. Surprisingly. Oh, that's the out file. Whoops. See this one too. There we go. Right, so this will make a difference. Whereas here we're watching like the C program files stuff now, yeah. And wait, no. Sorry, it should be the file index, shouldn't it? So it should be file index build. but we should only do it if it doesn't exist already. So we could do a thing where where we if we know if it exists, just throw it in there. And yeah, I'm just concerned about doing too much. But if we do too little, it could cause some issues. So you parse the dependency file. You check the if you we could make a function for the file index which basically says, update this file, right? If it doesn't exist, remove it. If it does exist, put it in. But do we care about watching the directories? I don't think we do. Like, you're not really going to be changing platform directories while the build system is running, right? Like installing a new Visual Studio update or whatever and changes some of those system places, right? Maybe. I think it should be okay. Yeah, so when we like watch the directories, right? Where is it gone? If we create it, we'll just insert a new one. Yeah, remove, then does a file index remove, right? So if we watch, hmm, yeah, so I wonder, should we, so we parse the depth file. Um, yes, when we parse the depth file, should we watch the directory at all and see what files they add? But then if we did this sort of build, I wonder if it could get quite expensive, right? Doing a file index build. Like you want to keep track of like all the directories that you've got in here kind of, but then so say if you have a C file, it includes a header file, right? You delete that line of the header file, and you delete the header file from disk. The build system is still running. You'll then create a build the file index will still contain. Will it still contain? No, it shouldn't do. Because we'll be watching all the directories we typically care about. The ones that will be added by the dep file, those ones would just typically be system headers, which shouldn't really change whilst you're using the build system, right? Like running it. But when you close it and open it again, it will work, right? So I think, yeah, I don't care about supporting updating the tool chain. I think that'd be fine. You know, we could just scan these directories though. But yeah, the biggest problem is like, yeah, you know what? It's not too hard. So I think you'd have to make another hash table though. So you can just do a directory map maybe. And what you can do is you can say, have I already scanned this directory, yes or no? Basically, so you're saying, if it has a directory, then I guess you can do a Boolean. Yeah, I think this is the best solution. Because it solves the issue where if you try and build recursive, like rebuild the same directory again, it can just check. So we're looking for like does map. Cool. So the path string. Okay, so if the path string, if the file index already has this directory, just don't bother going down anymore, yeah? Then what we want to do is mark it now to say we do. So we just basically do a hash table insert maybe. No, I think the has directory doesn't need to be used, but similar thing though, we just do a find or insert and then insert a null, basically. So or you can do an insert and it returns a boolean, right? So you insert a null. Sorry, you insert the path. The path string with a null value. Now, if this is a new value, or if it's not a new value, sorry, return. Something like that. Okay, that does it. I think that's all we need to do, really. So whenever we do a dep file parse, we go over all of the dependencies. and we simply just do a file index build. Hmm. Some of these things are doing, there's too many. Right, there should be one where it's like the plane. Just always take the string in. Has to be null terminated still though. That's fine. Right, so string format. So P here, we want to make sure that is a string beforehand. See, path normalize, it already has the size, right? So I feel like what we're doing is continuously just string lenning that thing. So it's really just better if we just do the proper thing, right? Return a full string. So it'll be string, destination, and size. Although size here has done a +1 on it. And then dst size equal null term. Right, so yeah, this is right. Cool. Although size here should drop that as well. That's cool. Lovely. So that's just basically saying if we're in the current working directory, just skip, make it a relative path from the current working directory again after normalizing it. Okay, this is really cool. So all of these guys which use this. Huh. I do not have a string. It's in the wrong place, isn't it? Right, let me just move this above here. Problem solved. Right, moving on. So here we go. So all of these guys. Now I can do something like this. Much better. So this is already a string now called P. Now I'm no longer constantly doing a string len everywhere. Lovely. Right, so command parse depth file. This is the old code. We can skip this. This one is the file watcher. So P. Nice. Right, this is when it's been modified. No, it's the old code. Right, it's the old code. Old code again. Cool. Right, we're in a good place. So where was I with this in the end? So when we want to do a file index build over every dep file, that's it. So when we parse a dep file, we want to make sure it's inside the file index. But we need to also make sure that we path pop back such that it's looking at the directory. Then it's going to have to string. Oh, this is horrible. Let's do it. String duplicate null term. Okay. Right, let's give that a go. So now, now we can do a file exists, file index exists. That's the one I'm looking for. We can do one of these to check to see if a file exists or not. And we should be watching the system directories as well now, basically, right? Because we scan the deps file, it's like, oh, it's in a system directory, and now it will start watching that. Right, so this complained on buildings, so I'm not sure what happened here. Okay, so what happened here is it tried to... Oh, unhandled translation for 123, huh. Right. Okay, so what is get last error 123? What is that? See what it is. Okay. Here we go. So we're trying to iterate through what path? Tab. What are you doing? There's a tab. Right, so it seems like my output file that I'm generating in the encoder gen, I put tabs in instead of spaces. I think it's not handling the So here we go. So it's saying, right, it's a new line. Right, yes, it's only handling spaces, so maybe that's just the solution, right? Just use spaces. Or like, yeah, let's just put spaces in there. Just the way that one the Clang works. Right, so I put a tab in, so I can just put a space. Where's these .d files at? Yeah, so put a couple of spaces, so let's do that. See what happens. So does that same thing happen? Right, it's got another error again. So we should probably delete that directory. Right, let's delete the cache directory again and let's go. Right, so now it's trying to say that this last modified time is a null pointer, which should not be possible, I don't think. Defined or insert? That should be saying if it's new, I'm going to get you a new. Yeah, that should be impossible. That is super bizarre. Let me have a look at that. Right. Yeah, so it's crashing when it tries to mark. It says this file has successfully compiled, right? And we're trying to say we're trying to update the success compiled time to the latest compiled time, but the pointer to the latest compiled time is null, which is super strange because when you push on one of these, it should never be null. Yes, I think here we want to assert that. Is that what goes on? Right, so we've still got this sort of issue here. Huh. It's ending some other way. I've got the exit there. Oh, bizarre. Hey there, JD Husk. How you going? Welcome, welcome. I wanted to say thank you for your advice on how to get back to God. Awesome. Did you ask that in the Discord or something, or was you was that you in the Discord earlier in the week, or was that someone else? Have a look. I don't know. Your name's not linked on Discord. Oh, it was you. Okay, so now I know that's you. Right. Amazing. Note to self. No worries. Yeah, something we all need a refresher on and stuff. There's moments where I'm slipping sometimes, you know. I have to remember these things but yeah. I think one that's on my plate to do next is around the fasting basically because I haven't done that for a while. I've been yeah, I feel like the Holy Spirit's been telling me, you know, I should be do a fast soon, but I keep pushing it back. It's not, yeah, it's one of those things. How should I learn Swift? Um, by just doing it. Like, if you want to do it, do it. Um, I don't know. I've never learned Swift, but it's just like anything else, right? You research, find a small project to build, like a super small one, like start building it, something you can throw away, right? Something you can look at and be like, okay, that was cool, and then move on, right? And yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure why. Well, what makes you want to learn Swift? Is it to build on like the Apple ecosystem, basically? Is that what you want to do? Right, BRB, I'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Right, so I guess if you're just trying to learn Swift for developing on Apple, you know, you might as well. Yeah, I think you want to just build a small application on Mac, right? Don't bother doing it on iOS because it's on another device. On Mac, you can build a very small program using it. Like even just a terminal application. But maybe, I don't know. How many other languages you learned in the past? What am I building on? Well, I'm building on Windows. You've had no, yeah. So I think that's the question you really should be answering is how do I learn programming? Because like once you know how to program, like learning new languages, like you'll know how to do that, right? Yeah, yeah. I'm honestly not sure what's best to get started. There's plenty of tutorials online. There's YouTube videos. Um, but ultimately, you just want to find the world's simplest project. So since you've got a Mac, right, and you're doing Swift, or sorry, you want to do Swift, see if you can build a terminal application using Swift, and just do the most simple application. Maybe just do like a simple calculator or whatever. I don't even know. Maybe that's not that great either. But yeah, find the most basic application you can do. And yeah, a calculator might be quite difficult for a new beginner because you have to do recursion. But maybe it might be alright. But yeah, I think a calculator is very simple. It might work, and it'll help you wrap your head around recursion because you'll be parsing math expressions, and that might be the most very simple thing you can do. But yeah, then do the next more complicated, very basic, but the next level of console application until you really understand the language a bit, right? And then progress onto something like a simple UI application, stuff like that. Yeah, Swift is mostly for Mac. They have open sourced it, so you can technically use it on other platforms, but yeah, really it's for Mac. I don't know what's going on. Can you do like a dash V on there or something? Man, man. Like, why? Why you do this? Oh. Like, why? So maybe. I've got some invalid paths now. Nope, they look pretty valid to me. So right, let's get this one in here so I'm not doing it again. What was it called in ah. I want to get the name for it. This one. Okay, invalid name. Cheers, mate. does not exist might be... Oh no, it's a bad name, isn't it? So... let's just make our own one. Let's just do that. So it can at least abort properly. There you go. Oh, latest modified time cannot be null. That's amazing. Oh, wait. We might be hitting on some asserts then. Ah, right, so it hits on the assert and then it finishes, but then why does it not break on exit? Like, we're just doing exit ones and stuff, right? So... no, I think he does. Yeah, Casey has a... like, when he did Handmade Hero, right? I think he still does it, I'm not sure. But before he did... so Casey... it's Muratorius. Yeah. So he did an intro to C before he did Handmade Hero, right? He did this, yeah, these ones. He did these first to learn the C programming language. And then he started Handmade Hero. And yeah. So these are why people suggest to learn from Casey. Because they were good. I remember watching them vaguely. And then I watched the Handmade Hero. But I think I only watched up to like episode 50, I think. Somewhere around there. And then I tuned into some of the other ones, just looking at specific things. But that gave me like enough fuel to go. But I think by that time I already knew C, so when I watched his intro to C videos, it was not necessarily learning from scratch, basically. But yeah, but yeah, it's a vague memory now. It's over 10 years ago. Latest modified time. Not be null. So why? It seems like the asserts just do an exit, right? And like, I got a breakpoint right here though. Oh. That might be why. Right, let's do it. So maybe we have to do one of those other exits because it's... I don't know. What is the... what's the sort of last... exit process? Let's try that one. Interesting. Well, it's not working. But anyway, let's just find the assert. So it was like... oh, It was on like the second one, which was good, thankfully. So this one's saying, and what is that string? I would like to know that. You're not going to tell me? Alright, it's because it looks like a macro, maybe. That's why. What a bugger. Right, so this for some reason. Right, so it'll be unable to stat path. Oh man, that log debug has ruined me. That needs to be a log info, my friend. Yeah, maybe those shouldn't be debugged, they should just be like... Anyway, I've changed it now, so... Right, dot star... Cool, so the other place it is in is... Right, so this will help us figure out what the problem is. Yeah, so really it's like... Maybe it should be called log error. Oh, it's right there. Cool, so... It's unable to stat the path. Yeah, so maybe it should be null. Right, so if it's null, then it means it doesn't exist. So maybe we should just handle it, right? So how do we get a more latest version? Right, so maybe we should allocate it, but when we stat it, if it errors because it doesn't exist, the time we should use is probably 0. Something like that, right? Just return to 0. Okay, anyway, so then we store it in done. I think that's what we're looking for. So if we're unable to stat it here in the update, I think you would just store a 0 in that time as well. So you'd actually just say something like that, I think. Yeah, so these should probably not return. So that should fix what we're running into. Right, let's see what's going on here. Okay, so this is interesting. There's quite a few spaces here. We've got to figure out why. There's a bunch of spaces coming into here. Now, if we run it... I'm glad it gets caught there. Failed to iterate on directory. Yeah, we didn't have the correct string in there. We can put that in, but a result string or something like that. Here we go. So invalid name, I think we're looking for. Okay. Now, so this invalid name it's got a tab in there again. Like, where's that coming from? So it's coming from parsing. It's just bizarre to me. I thought I changed the to not be output in tabs. Oh, there's a tab right there, isn't there? Of course. All right, so we sorted that out. So let's delete the cache in the build folder again. Cool. Right, so you see some kind of progress, right? We're inserting a lot into the file index now, so it's really indexing quite a bit. Maybe not a fan of how much it's indexing, but there we go. Right, so it compiles the code generator, done. Does the output file stuff, asks for the output files for the different ENC code gens, right? Sometimes it wants to generate .h, sometimes it wants to also generate a .c file. Then it's finished, so it ends up finding a bunch of modifier files. Then it tries to build the DAG, and then it parses the dependency file of some things and ends up basically watching directories and indexing things, and then it never actually but it never actually tries to build anything else. So this is a good place to be in. So now we can find I think it's called DAG execute, sorry, queue for execution. I think we can look in here now. So breakpoint here, run. So 0 commands to run. Very nice. So the thing we should be expecting to be able to run now is generating the actual code by the code gen steps. So we should be able to see them pop up in here. So C, right, so there's a bunch of shader ones. Let's just get past these. Right, so you see me, yeah, shaders. And after the executable, oh, I'm in the complete wrong place. So I'm going to have all the dependencies as well at the same time. That's not good. Here we go. This is the one I want. So building the encoder code gen. So does this, so it's going to have a lot of dependencies, right? Hundreds here. So if we go here, how many dependencies are left? 9. Well, that means not all of them were included inside the so I feel like we should be at least logging these. So it's part of the verbose. one, so that'll be so if it exists, great. Do that. Else, I'd like to see like that it's kind of maybe a broken tree sometimes, but it's kind of not at the same time. So let's just log some info. What's an error? So we could say command missing input file. Excuse me. Zero X ZU. So C command hash. Oh, dependency node path. That's the one. So we can say that doesn't need generating. Something like that. Here we go. Wow. So is it true then that the code generator is depending on generated files? That would be kind of crazy. We got this. No. So why, oh why, am I seeing this? Not sure what command this is now. We should already put out the command name. Just a shorthand name, that is. Right, see that one again. Oh, okay, yeah. Alright, it's not it then. Yeah, so these ones we expect to happen. But here we are, these ones. Right, so apparently it's tried to So these are not in the file index. But we've been inserting these guys in the index. Wow, that's a lot of files. Man, right, let's have a look at this. So these, let's get a bit closer to that. Right, idl.h. Right, so apparently it's not in the index, but it is. So we parsed the depth file and it has put that in the index. But we'll look another time and it's not in there. It's bizarre. Is it now full in some way? It can't be full. Maybe it is full. Yeah, we don't really have any asserts to say whether it's full or not. So if you try and insert, it's just going to keep going, right? So just infinitely loop. But we should encounter that. It's literally there, the exact same one. But I guess... Right, let's clear the screen, let's run it again. Yes, it's right there. So... Right, we have the exact string, it's reproducible. So next thing we do is every time we insert that string, oh, this is interesting, there's a remove. Removes could be the cause of errors. So because you move the files, doesn't that mean we also need to move the timestamps as well? No, sorry, it's different, it's file index. Right. Okay, so let's clear the screen and go again. Right, so is there any sort of remove? There's no index remove going on, which is interesting. So that's not the source of the problems. So every time we do an insert, hang on a minute. Build. Yes, that depth file parse. Yeah, it does do a normalize string on it, so it's completely okay. Okay, so every single time we do a file index insert, where is our boy? Here we go. So just do a quick. All right, so if not I, then yes, only when yes, so two paths. Here we're simply waiting for when else if string C or string equal path and string C this thing, right? So this will then mean we can make I equal to 1 or whatever. Then from here we can now do an assert. Just continually make sure after it's been inserted that it still exists. So file index exists. And let's try that. Okay, so we want to know, like, we'll just throw out a bunch of M's or something, I don't know. Just to sort of see what's going on. Right, so it doesn't even actually get inserted though. Like in that exact format for some reason. Even though we see it here. So it is strange. So it seems to be printed in that format, but maybe there's a space in there somewhere. Oh, there's not. You can't tell in the terminal about those spaces, but yeah. Oh crap. Oh no no no. Yeah, so yep, that's alright. Interesting. Very confused. Um, Yeah, so I don't understand why that doesn't want to work. It's very bizarre. We could just do a string compare, but still think that'll be very similar. They're going to be null terminated. But I doubt that's the issue, right? Well, yeah, stack int should always be 0. Right, I'm not. Right, this would have fired and been a problem anyway. So, yeah, that's not it. So I think we should just put a breakpoint in file index insert and just have a look at what sort of things are being fed in. Hmm. I reckon if we're fast enough, we might be able to catch it. Just put this over here. Nah, it's too quick still. Like, I'm waiting to see one of those. There's not too many ones in the code base. We could probably put a large, counter in there and breakpoint it there, but I don't know. Here we go. Right, these are the ones I want to look at. So, what are these things looking like? Right, so how far away was the other one? Oh, I can't really tell, can I? Hmm. But yeah, they look alright. There's C program files. But not quite x86 on that one, but yeah, it's the same sort of thing, right? So, I wonder. Like, I know on Windows they have case insensitivity, but I don't think that's what's driving it. It might be, though. Maybe that is it. Maybe. Because when we see in here, is it the exact same string? That's the question. So, well, this one here. And or this one here. Ah, for crying out loud, you stupid thing. Crazy, isn't it? So the P is different. Right, so the solution here would be probably just lowercase everything. But yeah. So on Windows, is NTFS case insensitive? I think it is. Is case sensitive, but Windows operating system forces it to behave case sensitive. Man. Okay. So we might just... See, it's bizarre, right? Because in order to do a file index insert, it should have been normalized. Right, because it was normalized, you would have thought that it would have dealt with that discrepancy, but I don't think it did. So I think when we do normalize, we also just want to go over that again, or here, right? And literally just do a char to lower. Right, but the problem with too lower is it's probably gonna be quite dumb, maybe. So I think maybe we want a custom too lower, maybe. Because the problem with too lower, I think it takes the locale into account. And we just want a dead simple one. So we're basically saying if or is greater than or equal to A and Z, then you just minus 32 or plus 32, I forget what it is. All right, let's see if the AI can just help me here. So I think there are some bit tricks you can do and stuff. Oh, for crying out loud, are you really gonna... Oh, okay, I was doing it in a while loop for some reason. Right, so yeah, then it's... Yeah, you can do some tricks as well, like if you take away A and then, you know, just do a single less than operator and stuff like that, but we don't really need to do that. So you add 32. Yeah, that's what we want to do. Cool, right. Cool, so we try that, it should solve our issues, I think. Right, this is in a super weird place. Yes, it's all lowercase now. So it's saying it's missing. But it's right there. Builds the DAG. Why is it missing these as input files from the... We should be doing watch directory code. Then it looks in code apps. Oh, okay, so the current working directory thing is not working anymore. So, hang on a minute. So the current working directory needs to be to lowered as well. So where do we get the current working directory? Okay, so we'll just drag this up here. That should do. So we basically check the start of the string, and if the start of the string contains the current working directory, we make the path relative after normalizing it. All right, here we go. Right, that was interesting. It did a lot more than we've done in the past. That is quite interesting. So there's a lot of stuff going on. A lot of things to parse here. So here we go. Right, so we kick off and we say, right, builds a DAG, and it's like, well, it can't launch all this stuff because these files haven't been code generated yet. And maybe we shouldn't really error on this, but something to think about. Then we're going to build the code generator because it's missing. Right, and then we build it, it finishes. The code generator is built, so now it can do the output file. It can check the output files for the code gen, see which ones it needs, it runs those. Then picks up on a bunch of changes in the directories, builds the next DAG. Then it realizes when it parses the depth files for the encoder codegen.exe, you write the depth file for that. It realizes that there's a whole bunch of stuff that it depends on, so it basically adds it to the file index and stuff like this, right? So after that, Should probably find the words build DAG, and that would really help a lot. Here's the next time it tries to build the DAG, and then... Oh, okay, maybe not. Let's keep going. Right, you see that's a lot of files, right? And then we're there. So then it says missing output file. Yeah, so now it's trying to build the shaders because the output file is missing. Right, so let's try that again. The codegen still hasn't ran. Is this a place where we want to be in? I think it is. Yeah, see here it's trying to do the codegen alongside the shaders. Right, no, we do need the find dependencies passes to be back in there, damn it. Alright. I'm thankful I kept those around. Right. So we can't... Okay. Right, so I think I found out what's going on now. So basically we need this find dependency thing back. So if the dep file exists, well, it's not necessarily that. Yeah, so we need to rethink this again, but it's getting closer. All right, here we go. So let's go to this Clang command because it'll be easier. So we're trying to build something in Clang. So we need to know whether or not we can actually build it. No. No, we don't need this define dependency thing. Let's get rid of it. Right, so we should be able to check the graph. The graph should be able to tell us. There's a lot of stuff going on here. So my Wi-Fi's died on my PC. Yeah, so the codegen generates these guys, but then these ENC files are no longer generating. Ah, interesting. Yeah, so what it seems like is happening is there's no dependency now between the code generator and the shaders. So just running at the same time. Very strange. Where are we going to? So that will be... That should just be when you build the DAG, right? So this code here, I don't think this is doing anything where it's generating a list. Right, so we just go here now, see what happens. 5. 5 files. Um, right, let's have a look at that again. Yeah, so I wonder how many ends up going through in the end. Just 5 of them? That'd be quite bizarre. Wow. So I only came across 5 ENC files across the whole code base, and they only had... There was more though. Right, there's one which specifically is for shaders. Where has it gone? Graphics VK shared. It's not showing up for some reason. 1, 2. So it seems like to be an off by 1 there. Right there. Why was that never picked up? Hmm. So I wonder what might be happening is maybe it's running and generating it. When did that go there? Yeah, maybe they're being generated. Right, so I don't think we're updating. Right, that's another problem. Right, I went around and deleted these, but they're not generating in the right place anymore. So in the encoder system, we need to actually make sure they write to the right destination. So I don't think we need that anymore. So encoder code gen, it needs to know the output paths. The output directory to write the code generated files. That's what we need to do. Right, so that's the next thing to do. We should obviously remove the generated files .h/c files from the code ** directories. But yeah, for some reason there's now no dependency between shaders and this, and I think that's because it's missing the graphics VK shared thing from that list, and I don't know why. It might be it seems like it's in the file index. But yeah, something weird. Something weird's going on. Anyways, gonna bring up the Twitch chat on here. But yeah, I gotta get going now. I just want to pop this out. Right, see an infinite Henry. Anyways, guys, I've got to get going now. But catch you later. Hopefully see you all Thursday at 7:30 p.m. GMT +1. But yeah, in the meantime, guys, there's a Discord channel. We can come and chat. There's also a way to support the channel in the meantime. A huge thank you to everyone who supported the channel, and hopefully see you all in the future one. Right, good night, guys. God bless you all.